Okay, so we'll just get started, and I'll just tell you a little bit about me so that you know who I am. But first I want to thank Wendy Meyerson, and really I want to thank her for all that she does for our community and for setting up this beautiful place for all of us to have many resources here. So I do want to thank her. And I've known Wendy for a number of years, and I also want to thank her for inviting me to be one of the speakers, one of the September speakers. So when I thought about the different topics that I wanted to share, this is probably the nearest and dearest to my heart. And since we don't have to talk about leadership and things like that, I really would just want to share with you some of my thoughts on the self-mastery journey, the journey from the inside out, because I don't think there's anything in life as important as this. So, who am I and where did I come from? Well, currently my day job, I'm the CEO of Hematology-Oncology Associates here in, we have 5 sites, but our major site is in Brittenfield. And I've been there for 10 years. And I'm really privileged to be the CEO of that practice. It's an extraordinary group of physicians and employees. And when I got the job 10 years ago, it was interesting because in my heart I thought, well, first of all, will my heart handle cancer patients, being among them? And I was concerned, and I thought a lot about it, and my husband said to me, Maryann, you're perfect for that job because you're concerned. Anyways, I would say that patient population is so dear to me, and I am so grateful for the relationships that I have developed with our patients. They are the most precious group of patients throughout my career that I've ever been able to work with. Prior to 10 years ago, I fundamentally did primary care. So your internal medicine, your family physician. I was the VP at Krause Hospital. I was the VP of Ambulatory Care Services for almost 7 years, and I set up those urgent cares when I was there. And before that, I was actually at North Medical Center and set up the first urgent care that was ever really kicked off here in Syracuse, New York. In fact, the insurance companies didn't even know what an urgent care was, so that was a really nice learning curve. Yeah. What I am? Well, I'm a mom. Yes. Well, my bachelor's of science degree, I got at Albany College of Pharmacy, and I started out as a medical technologist, and then I went and got my master's at Upstate in medical technology. And then about 5 years ago, I studied through the American, why did it just leave me? The American Institute of Holistic Theology, in which I got my Doctor of Divinity. And I did that for a few reasons, and maybe I'll share some of that as we go through. In addition to the day job that I have, 10 years ago we established an integrative therapy program at Hematology-Oncology Associates. And what is that? That's services like Reiki therapy and healing touch, massage, acupuncture, foot reflexology. So I needed to understand those modalities if I was going to establish a program. And I would say that my first Reiki treatment was rather life-altering for me. And from that, I took 4 years to study Reiki, and I became a Reiki Master 6 years ago. And I've also been teaching. And then in my quest in doing my healing ministry, I thought, it could really help people a lot if I could have some kind of credibility to talk to them in some different ways than I do before my Reiki therapy. So a few years ago, I went and I got certified as a hypnotherapist. And so I have a little thriving private practice in addition to being the CEO during the day. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I see clients, and I am extremely busy. In fact, this has been the year of hypnotherapy. I have probably spent over 100 hours so far in a very precious journey with people as they delve into their subconscious mind to really go from the inside out and to heal. Welcome. So I would like this to be a little informal. So if you have questions or you want to ask me anything, just, let's make it kind of a really special gathering where we talk about things that, whatever comes up. So where did this whole self-mastery thing come from? So when I started at HEMONC, I knew that there was just great physicians there and there was already great staff. And I kept wondering what I was going to bring to the table for them. And I kept hearing, you know how you hear that little voice inside? I kept hearing self-mastery, self-mastery, self-mastery. Well, I have to tell you, 10 years ago, I wasn't really sure what that even meant. But I certainly know now, and I am really committed to speak about the self-mastery journey for the whole rest of my life to anyone who will possibly listen to me. So that includes family, friends, and now all of you. Okay, so, hi. So, what is the self-mastery journey? Well, you know what? It's an alignment. It is a wholeness of both physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So, physical. Everybody knows it's really good to eat healthy, right? To exercise, to stay in good physical condition. People absolutely know that it's good to have mental and emotional stability and health. And many people know that it's important to have a spiritual life. And I don't mean whether you go to temple or whether you worship in a church or any kind of formality. To me, spirituality is that connection that we have with each other. It's a knowing that we're connected to something great. It's a knowing that we want to affect the world so that we leave it a better place than we found it. So the self-mastery journey is never ending. I mean, I'm certainly nowhere near through mine. Hopefully I'll have at least another 50 years to work on mine here, and I'm sure it continues wherever I go after that. But the self-mastery journey is when the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual aspects of ourselves are aligned. It feels good. And you know, discomfort is an extremely important part of our life because discomfort speaks volumes to us. And discomfort physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually, it usually indicates some kind of void somewhere. So although we think to ourselves, well, you know, I don't like discomfort, discomfort is actually quite a gift, and it's one that I'd like to talk about a little bit tonight so that we can have an appreciation for it to try to figure out what is it that we're trying to say to ourselves. So when I speak the self-mastery journey, really it's that never-ending journey to figure out who we are. It's a journey to transform ourselves and to love ourselves more tomorrow than we do today. It's that journey where we look at our glass as half full and perhaps we work on the beautiful and divine and perfect aspects of ourselves so that those qualities get so enriched and so vibrant that they crowd out those things we don't like. So we're not walking through life beating ourselves up and looking and making a list of all the things that aren't perfect or aren't right. But yet we're looking at all that's good and we're knowing that we have that inside of us to enrich that and crowd out those other things. So it's looking at that glass as half full. It's knowing that you do want to leave the world a better place. It's knowing that interpersonal relationships are extremely important. It's knowing that fear has very vast manifestations in our life, and it's recognizing fear within ourselves, being able to feel it, identify it, and then replace it. And that's freedom. When you can have fear replaced by love, especially self-love, there's an element of freedom. So you will go from fear to freedom by replacing that. And these are things that all of you know. So hopefully I'll just throw some things out here that will allow you to remember, that will just maybe jog your memory. Or it'll give you some food for thought, like, yeah, you know, I really did know that, but I haven't really thought about that in a while. Because the self-mastery journey, as it progresses, I believe, results in a greater inner peace and a level of happiness. It's kind of like living life above those clouds so the moment-to-moment turbulence doesn't suck you down and get you all into all of that drama and all of the stimuli that are all over that bombard us minute by minute. And it's something that allows us to be solid through that. Does it take away our challenges? Does it make it so our life is just totally blissful without anything? Absolutely not. But what it does is it allows us to have tools and resources to be able to be resilient and weather those storms. And they don't come from pills, and they don't come from self-anesthetizing, and it doesn't come from an outside source. It comes from within. A sense of strength, a sense of love, a sense of commitment to the self. And that's really what the self-mastery journey is. And so I want to just throw out as a blueprint for thought some ideas. Yeah. Well, I've written it, but that was not published yet. No, actually, I couldn't.
No, I was talking about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Because I think I glean some of what you say.
Mhm.
I just think kind of things are so bad out there. How do you stay positive
Well.
amidst everything? But I'm looking at like a beginner's
Mhm.
book, like what it is.
I honestly.
How do you see the positive part of being too?
Yeah. I'm sure there's tons of books out there. I just couldn't really name any right now. Yeah, let me think as we go through and maybe some will come to me. I mean, I've probably read, I don't know, thousands of books in the last umpty-ump years, but I think, and that's probably why I've worked to write my second book, actually, that will be called Weeds of Consciousness. It's going to be a while, so don't even write it down, but Weeds of Consciousness. Well, let me show it to you. I have it over here. And I'm going to give you a bookmark when you leave that has my website on it. But my first book is called Building the Team from the Inside Out, and it's a multidimensional view of leadership, and it's a very different leadership book. And some people have told me that it has changed their life, and others, like my cousin, said to me, Mare, 4 times I tried to read it, and I don't know, what, did you write it for really smart people or something? I don't get anything that you're saying in there. And I said, well, maybe you could read it from the back to the front. Maybe you could just flick it and see if there's a page that speaks to you. Because that is a leadership book, but honestly, it's a leadership book that I believe is like the leadership truck and the self-help truck merged. Because I've learned some really important things for my life in my journey. And I have to say that journey would never have been as precious if I wasn't a Hematology-Oncology associate, because of the people and the patients and the physicians and I don't know, I guess it's an appreciation for everything, for every minute. When I was in primary care, there were so many grumpy patients, and they'd be so angry about things. And I see people every day with resilience and a spirit that is incredible, because every minute means something, and that teaches you something. Like I used to moan about my hair for the first 42 years of my life. And then I went to work there, and I'm just so happy I have hair that it's okay, whatever it looks like. Yeah, there are a lot of unhappy people in the whole world. But honestly, it's an accountability of our... Oh, I know. We all have a right to be grumpy if we want to make a list. But what I'm saying is our thoughts are extremely powerful. And we have to take accountability for how we think. Because we can change our own world and how we look at the world by, instead of reacting all day, by co-creating it. And so really that's what the self-mastery journey is. And that's really what the power is. Power is an interesting thing. And in my career, I've had many people so consumed with power. But power has nothing to do with the position that you have in life, how much money you have in the bank, and how many things you have. Really, power is that resiliency within the self to be able to go through life and to find happiness in things that are tumultuous and the things that are challenging. And I will ask you, are you a happy person? Because if you're not, you can change that, because you can change your mind. Because very often we only have 2 choices when we get in a situation that is not favorable to us. We could either change what's going on, we can remove ourselves, and sometimes you can't, so you have to change your mind about it. And that's really kind of what we're talking about today, is to change your mind and change your life, that the power is within. And there's all sorts of things out there that can cause us to be upset. But we can choose. We all have the ability to make a choice of how we look at every challenge in our life. So really, the power is the self-mastery journey. And just like Leonardo da Vinci said, one can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery of oneself. And so I know when I wrote that book, I have learned through the years that I could do team-building exercises with my leadership staff till the cows come home. And until people look within themselves to figure out why they react to the stimuli of life the way they do, you can never reach that highest level of performance because there's baggage, because we all have it. None of us go through life and are unscathed by all the different things that happen to us. Some of us had beautiful childhoods. Some of us had very tumultuous childhoods. We never know how much rain or sunshine falls in a person's life, but we know that you need both to grow. And if I look at my life, where I have grown the most has been through challenges, have been through difficult things, have been through when I finally got out of the muck, I went, holy crow, I can't even believe I did that. That's when you really figure out who you are. You know, when life is great, you know, it's like sliding down the hill and the wind's blowing and you're having a great time and life is all hunky-dory. But, you know, when you're stepping in the snow and you're going, you know, step by step and it's trudging and it's hard and you look at how much further you have to go and, you know, it's those times that you figure out who you are. So that's really what we're talking about today. And I want to talk for a minute about the shadow that resides within all of us. And if you look at psychology, like, you know, you can read things about the internal shadow, that negative stuff that we have inside, but I don't look at that as negative at all. I look at everything as an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity. Every challenge is an opportunity to figure out who we are and to figure out what's going on in there. So the challenge is, you know, the shadow that is discussed very frequently is that unconscious part of ourselves, right? Because we have our conscious mind, and that's the things that we can think of, our grocery list that we do. There's things that are in our conscious awareness and things that we can pull from. So it's our memories. But we have a subconscious mind, and in the subconscious mind are housed many thoughts and many conclusions and many choices and decisions that we've made about ourselves, and some that we're totally unaware of. And so really the self-mastery journey is to go inside and to understand ourselves. See, we, all day long, we react to stimuli, but we react the way we perceive them. And how we perceive things is really dependent upon the life that we've lived, the product of what environment we've come from. So everyone's going to perceive things differently, but that's going to be their truth because that's who they are. But what's really beautiful is if you can say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to just go along and react and respond. I'm going to create. Because we have incredible power within ourselves to co-create and create our day instead of just reacting to it. But most people go along, you know, maybe they're not really consciously trying to create anything. And so really that's what the self-mastery journey is. It's the power that resides within. It's, yeah, you know, I can make a list of all sorts of things that are stressful out in that world and things that are anxiety-provoking and hardships that our country is going through and what's going on internationally. But I can effectuate change within my own life right here because I can help make this world a better place, one person at a time from the inside out, and it's going to just start with me. And that's really the things I want to talk about today, is going inside ourselves. And you know, everybody's got that same stuff inside that we don't know. So it's always very difficult, you know, and we don't want to be judgmental of other people because everyone's journey is perfect exactly the way they are. But what we're dealing with in life, with our friends, our family, our mentors, our colleagues, all these teams, are all the things that are inside everyone. So sometimes I have learned that the things that make my team have dysfunction or have challenge often have nothing to do with the work or the challenge. It has everything to do with the triggers inside ourselves that are kind of provoked by memories that we have. And we're going to talk about some of that kind of stuff in more detail. And we surround ourselves with mirrors in this world. You know, when we see things in other people that bother us, think about it. It could be a part of us that we've healed. Okay, it could be a part we've healed, or it could be a part we haven't. But the world are mirrors to us, and we need to pay attention. Like when anything happens with someone that annoys me or upsets me, instead of me thinking what's wrong with them, I wonder what's wrong with me. I think, why is that happening? Why do I feel this way? Now let's really think about this. Yeah.
They say that any negative thought or feeling you have is rooted in fear.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the two primary emotions that exist, love and fear. And we're going to do a little exercise to see how we can tell which one is in motion. So, what is self-mastery? Understanding who we are and why we react to the stimuli of life the way we do. It's knowing that things are not always what they appear to be. while we're maintaining an awareness and level of gratitude for the possibilities. See, that's my favorite thing to say. Things are not always what they appear to be. We think we know what's going on, but sometimes we really just have no idea. Developing and maintaining a high level of self-control and resiliency. Knowing that we are only limited by the boundaries we place on ourselves. So when you got out of bed this morning, did you look down the corridor of potential? Or did you look down the corridor of limitation? Because you see, limitation is the fear. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I don't feel well enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. That's all the path of limitation, because we have all those fears that are within ourselves. And then we've got that path of potential. I can do it. I can overcome this. I have the tools. I have the resources. I'm strong. I'm beautiful. I'm healthy. I'm exactly the way I should be. So knowing that we are only limited by the boundaries we place on ourselves. It's remembering the oneness of our existence, the beauty, the abundance of nature. The world is so abundant. And if you sit outside, if you take time to settle your thoughts, to quiet the mind, how often you can just bathe in the beauty of this world and it could feed your soul. Continual nurturing of inner kindness and tolerance. Practicing kindness and love and gratitude, as opposed to always picking things apart and finding fault with ourselves and other people. A continual personal growth and expansion of our wisdom. Because, we can read and study and our knowledge base can really accelerate. But our wisdom is really understanding who we are. It's that inner knowing. It's the intuitive gift that we've all been given. It's listening to that voice within us who knows, who really will never, ever lead us down the wrong path. Having the intuition to maintain physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment. And when something's out of alignment, you can tell. Because you know what? It's in a tough economy out there. So, personal relationships, is it that your presence helps someone else get through difficult times? There's always a way to change your mind, because that is the power that we have. And it's a continual journey to fly above the clouds, so the moment-to-moment turbulence doesn't suck us down in and helps our life take on greater ease and greater joy. It's kind of like fake it till you feel it. How you doing? I'm great. You say you're great enough, you'll convince yourself. You know what they say, right? If how's that thing go? If someone tells you you're a duck long enough, you'll start quacking, or however that thing goes. So, perceptions. This is a very old picture. Is there anybody who has not seen this picture sometime in their life? Okay, so if you have not seen this picture before, you may see this young girl, pretty. Or you may see this witchy-looking old, haggy-type person. Now you see, are you ready for me to tell you the secret in case you can't see them both? Okay, so this is the chin of the pretty girl, and this is her nose, and that's her hair and her ear. Okay? But that old witchy-looking lady, this is her chin, this is her mouth. Okay. So now, I use this picture a lot, and especially for my staff, because those of you who saw the pretty girl, you were right. Right? Do you see? You need help. What is it you can't see? The old lady. Okay, so we're going again with the witch. Here's her chin. Here's her mouth. Here's her nose. You see it now? Yeah. It's her eye. Yeah. Yeah. So what this illustrates is that perception is reality. So those of you who saw that young girl, you were all right. And then some of you saw that witchy-looking lady, you were all right. Well, how could you both be right? Because you see, that's how we look at this world. So we can't judge another person and say, you know what, you're wrong, I'm right. Because the way we see things, the way we perceive things, the way we calculate things in our brain, the way stimuli comes in and we're affected, that becomes the reality for all of us. So really, what is the reality? I like to say reality is changeless. And there's only a few things that don't change. And that's love. And that's love. Okay, so perception is reality, and we all see things differently, but we're all right. And you know what? When we're going through life, and when I say to my leaders, and they're among each other, and who's torquing somebody else off, and who's getting angry about something, you know, did your little brother or sister ever get you angry when you were young? Did your parents ever upset you? Well, the same dynamic at this table, I think, goes on during everyday life, because we have people who trigger. Now, my stepson triggers my brother thing in me a lot, because my brother, one is 6 years older than me, the other is 12. So you can imagine that was the 6-year-older one, we're very close, but you know, I couldn't beat him in anything. Every game we played, he was so much smarter than me. He was 6 years older than me. You know, one time he bet me $1 he could pull an ice cream cone out of their freezer. Now, $1 was a lot. I was little. But I knew we had no ice cream in the house. And I kept saying to him, $1? And you're going to pull an ice cream cone out of... Yeah. You give me $1, I'll pull an ice cream cone out. So I run to my room, I get my $1, I come out, and he opens the freezer, and he takes out an empty ice cream cone. I said, well, I never said it was going to be filled with ice cream. I just said it was going to be an ice cream cone. So my stepson, it's funny, because he'll do things like that, and he triggers that my brother pulling the ice cream cone out of the freezer thing, you know, and all that other stuff. And it's so funny, but I know it. And I'll say to him, oh, I'm having one of those brother moments. Because you see, this is life. This is where we pick it all up, right? And I mean, some people had beautiful experiences growing up. I'm very blessed, I really did. I had a great childhood, and it was awesome. And I tell everybody, the only thing that really didn't work out that well for me is my mother died when I was 14. And that's awful. But you know what? I wouldn't be who I am without that. And that was actually a tragedy and a gift, because I've looked at it like that my whole life. And I had her, which I would pick her for 14 than pick anybody else for 1,000. But it was funny, because just today at my leadership meeting, we were talking about guilt. And I can't remember how we were talking about, curfews. And I said, well, my father was always very worried because, you know, my mother had died. He was worried I was going to, and I said, I knew she was right there. At least everybody else's parents were home and didn't know what they were doing. I felt like she was right there watching everything. You talk about keeping on the straight and narrow. Where was I going? Because I knew she was right there, and I was like, oh, brothers. So anyways, our family, you know, we're products of that environment. And how about the playground? Remember, you had the bullies, you had the protectors, you had the motherly people, you had the people who didn't care, you had the people who weren't accountable for anything they said or anything they did. Well, we're just in a more mature playground now, and I think in our lives, but we're still all, you know, have that little kid in there. So these are things to recognize. All of us, everything we say and do is a reflection of what's on the inside. And that's why we really shouldn't even take things personally. Because you know what? It has really nothing to do with me when someone goes off on something. I don't know what's in them. But you see, we're still all have all of that stuff in there. So the importance of our intentions. It is really important to pay attention to our intentions, because that's the energy that we exude. Is it love? Is it kindness? Or is it bitterness and anger? Because those are as poisonous to us as all the things that Nature Time lists as environmental factors and toxins and heavy metals and all of that stuff. Anger and resentment are as poisonous and as harmful to us to keep inside as all of the other environmental factors and things that we work so hard to protect ourselves from. Accountability for our thoughts. It's really important to be accountable for how you think. I think personally there's an accountability issue that it's almost a crisis of what we're going through in our nation and in our world. But if everyone really took accountability, it would be such a different place. Accountability for our actions, the power of discomfort, the way our body speaks to us, whether we're aligned when something's not right. Ask ourselves, why? Why do we feel that way? It's important. It's a gift. It's not a curse. And patterns and grooves. These are kind of what we're going to go through and talk about. I want to talk about intention first, and I don't know if you know this man, Dr. Masaru Emoto. Who has heard of him here? Okay, so a few people. I only have a couple of slides, but it's very fascinating to me when I saw this. So he's a Japanese visionary, creative scientist and researcher. And he started doing work on water crystals. And so he would actually take a petri dish, you know what one of those are, those little plastic things that have stuff on the bottom. Well, he would fill it with water. He would put a string. The water that he was putting in there were samples. So whether it was this dam and water from other things that I'll show you in a minute. And then what he would do was he would freeze it, and there would be little crystals that would form on the thread, and it would be kind of almost snowflake-ish, you know. And then he did something called dark field microscopy, which unlike light microscopes, which is probably all the pictures you've ever seen where the light goes through and illuminates, this is actually dark. And so what you're looking at is illuminated instead. So he did dark field microscopy, and what he wanted to know was, does intention change the molecular structure of water? So he took water from a polluted source. It was the lake and I don't know how you say that, Fujiwara Dam in Japan. It's the most polluted body of water that was in Japan. And so he did this test on it with the string and the agar. And what he found was that there were no crystal-looking things. There was just amorphous material. So then he got this Reverend Kato Hoki. He was the chief priest of the June temple. He made a 1-hour prayer practice beside the dam, and he did the same thing with the water. And he found this beautiful crystalline structure was formed. So then what Dr. Emoto did was he did all sorts of experiments with water. He took water and he bombarded it with heavy metal music. He took it and he put lullabies. He had 2 glasses. He wrote, "You fool," and "thank you." He let the water sit for, I think it was 20 minutes or a half hour. He did his little study on it. Amorphous material for "you fool," beautiful crystal for "thank you." Well, he did this over and over and over again, and he's got books out there that have all sorts of pictures. And then there were other scientists across the world who said, well, let's see if we can repeat this. And it has been repeated for over 10 years in various forms with various scientists. And it's a very interesting book to read. And what Dr. Emoto says is words are an expression of the soul. The condition of our soul is very likely to have an enormous impact on the water that composes our body, and this impact does not affect our bodies in a small way. We're composed 70% of water, and the earth is composed 70% of water. So if people's intentions can change the molecular structure of water, think of what we could do to our bodies by just having positive thoughts. And think of how important it would be to be able to know that another person's intentions were not to hurt you, even if their words were abrasive. Because what's going on with them is a reflection of what's on the inside. Right? So if you look at life that way, like I'll say to my leaders, well, was their intention, you think, to have this project go south and have you look bad? Oh, no, that would never happen. Okay, so then somehow the words came out, something happened, and they were misinterpreted. There was a miscommunication of some sort because you're telling me you believe the intention was good. Well, I don't believe we have anyone without a good intention in our organization because if we did, they wouldn't be there. So if I know the intentions are good, then they just need the tools to be able to do their job. And so we've actually done, even from a senior leadership group, a lot of inside work that has helped the whole group be successful.
You're
Mhm.
with the state,
Mhm.
we need a lot of honesty.
Mhm. But what's important is that people are honest with themselves, right? And then as a leader, I have a responsibility because I know how I want an organization to function, and so I have to find people that show me their intention every day. So if
Does
I...
that make sense if when a person gives you a response, whether or not
I develop trust for the people.
it's
Well, actually, I would like to think that I do have intuitive skill to know, but also I surround myself with people who I trust.
Well, you're working with amazingly special patient populations to begin with, and it seems like you're working with people
Mhm.
second to none anyway, so it's like,
It is. It was.
like they're angels to begin with.
Yes.
I mean, they're not
And you know what?
already come that way.
Yes, and that's exactly why people have said to me in the last 10 years, well, see, Maryann, that's why you can be successful, because you're in that very special place. But I believe that there is the potential to have other workplaces be special. You don't need cancer patients to be able to treat employees with respect. You don't have to be in a healing environment to care what people's opinions are. But also you don't have to be in a healing environment to hold people accountable.
Why does it seem as though it's getting worse and worse? And I guess I would speak just personally from the healthcare field. It seems to be getting worse and worse in terms of everything from quality of service to morale. I mean, we know all the economic
Mhm. Mhm.
kinds of threats,
Mhm.
but it really seems, in my opinion, to be...
Well, I think there's big challenges out there, and I think without the tools and the leadership and the mission and the right people, it's the whole package. It's the whole package. But I think that, that goodness can be duplicated. Well, that's why I spent so long to write the book. Well, if they don't, if you're in charge of that organization, then those people shouldn't be on your bus. Because you've got to have the right people, or you're not going to accomplish what you want. And mediocrity is something that some accept, because it takes courage to say to someone, you're not performing. It takes courage to tell someone, this is not working and this isn't a fit, and you're just going to have to go. But when you set that expectation, and people know what's expected and they don't meet it, then it's the leader who has to say, then why is that person in that position? So perhaps there's just a leadership crisis. So anyways, going back to intention, at least when you find those people and you got them on your bus and you know their intention is good and you give them the right tools, then you can accomplish those goals. Focus. We know that what we focus on comes in clear view. I really believe that we will gather, we will attract that which resonates with our most dominant thought. So we attract that which resonates with our most dominant thought. So if you're negative, and if you're grouchy, and if you're grumpy, and if you think there's a dark cloud over your head, then that's what life is going to dish you out, because that's what you're going to co-create, because you are going to attract that which resonates with your most dominant thought. So there's this story about this man, and he had these two people come up to him, and they said, hey, I heard you live at such and such. We live over here in New York State. We were thinking, of moving there, and we heard that the people are wonderful there. We heard that there's kindness, and it's fun, and there's nice, and what do you think? And the man said, I think you're right. And then another two people, not long after, said to him, hey, I heard you live at such and such. I heard it's an awful place. I heard that there's a lot of miserable people there, that there's pollution, that there's terrible traffic. And they said, is that true? And he said, yes, that's absolutely true. Because really, you're going to go create what you really think to exist. So, we must pay attention to the quality of our thoughts. What's coming out of our brains? And what self-talk is going on all day long? Do you tell yourself you're good, you can do it, You're strong, you're resilient. Yep, there's challenges, but you can overcome them. Or do you beat the you-know-what out of yourself? What are you saying to yourself? So, focus on that which you want to come in clear view. I want to tell you about patterns and grooves. Remember, thank you very much. So, that's records. Not a lot of people these days know what a record is, but stuck in a groove. So what is a groove when you're stuck in it? It's an endless repetition of the same theme over and over and over again. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is an example of what I do at work on a monthly basis. This actually came from one of my staff meetings that I did, because every month I do what I call an 8.5 by 11, because it started out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And in the beginning, when I first worked there 10 years ago, they were more business-oriented principles. And slowly they merged into more, maybe somewhat spiritual type, in a very around the bend. But I've been told that these have made a difference. So for your work environment, to create what you want to have, you have to set expectations, but you also have to have goals, and you have to have people join in. So, here's an example. Endless repetitions of the same theme play over and over and over again. Has this ever happened to anybody in their life? You're stuck in the groove, and you're going over and over and over. So, within the inner recesses of our own thought processes, within conversations or events that take place with family, friends, co-workers, or just people in general, and within the drama of life, we're stuck in a groove. We're just stuck. Every time I see that person, they make me feel like this. I can't stop it. Every time she says that, it's like nails on the chalkboard. Every time I do this, I get so upset. Every time I go there, every time I hear that song, every time it can go on and on and on. We're stuck in a groove, and it's going around and around. There's only one person who's going to take us out of that groove, and that's ourselves. Because life will continue to play that passage for us until we are forced to truly look at it and identify the dynamics within the groove. What is in there? What is it? As we look beneath the surface of situations, we gradually come to perceive the causative emotion or fear or erroneous belief that's encoded within the groove. Because we have a lot of erroneous beliefs, I've noticed. And I have as many as you do, so don't think I'm standing up here like, oh, look at me. I've resolved everything. I'm like the perfect self-mastery journey. Oh, no. I'm going through day by day, just like sometimes minute by minute. But you know what? I am compelled to share the things that have changed my life, because I want to make the world a better place. And I know it can happen from the inside out only, because I've seen all of these people in my life work from the outside in. It just doesn't change anything. It's got to be. And we're never too old, and we're never too anything. We all have the same ability to go from the inside out. So once we identify this, we're able to analyze the characteristics within the groove that play a major theme in our life. Sometimes we realize the detrimental effect made to our personal and professional growth that becomes inherent when we permit the theme in the groove to dominate our choices. Because sometimes we do the same thing over and over again. Sometimes we see the same theme in many aspects of our life. Sometimes we just accept that theme as our life. Do you ever know anybody who says, well, I'm a very unlucky person. Everything happens to me. And that, ask the question, is it just happening, or is it happening to you? How many things really are happening to you? So as we identify those common threads, ask why. And as our true essence emerges from our groove or our prison of self-perceived limitations and false beliefs, we're able to experience life to flow more easily. And that's when we can ride that new current effortlessly, instead of rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing against the current. But we control how long that needle's caught in that groove. And honestly, there are no victims. We have no one to blame but ourselves. So, right, we complicate our lives. We make things so complicated. We do that. There's no one else. Okay, so we are pretty much bombarded out there. There's a lot of stuff happening to stress us out. I had somebody, like when the 401ks were sliding, they were calling them instead of 401, 101Ks, because they, said it was so horrible. Okay, unemployment, CNN, Wall Street. You could really upset yourself if you want. And I would ask you, why would you want to do that? So sometimes you see, I don't even pay attention. Sometimes you got to have a hiatus from, I want to know the big things. Can see those in 5 minutes. I got the little, New York Times things that come through on my phone, the big things, But otherwise, I don't know how much of it is true anyways, probably not a lot. So why upset myself so much? So ask yourself, can all that worrying and sickness and whatever you're doing to yourself, is that going to really change anything? So effectuate the things that you can. Be the agent of change within the surroundings that you can. See, sometimes the cause of things are not visible. But usually the effect is, when you're stressed to the max and it's a long-term stress, you can't always identify all those causes, but you're sick to your stomach. You've had that pit in your stomach for a while. Ask yourself, well, why? What's not aligned? What is it? And then figure out what box it goes in. Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? Where's the void? What's not right? What's making you feel off? Because there are two major fundamental emotions in life that lead and feed everything else, and that is love and fear. Everything is a manifestation of one of those two emotions. So when something's going on, ask yourself which root it's coming from. How will you know? Well, love feels good and fear doesn't. Okay? So, gratitude, joy, bliss, content, forgiveness, happiness, kindness, those are all love-based manifestations. Control, disappointment, manipulation, judgment, obligation, anger, resentment, those are all fear-based. Because you either fear that you're not good enough, that you're not important enough, somebody's not paying enough attention, you're putting expectations on other people that really, why? You're putting your own expectations on someone. You expect someone to react the way you are. I mean, think of the witch and the pretty girl. You don't, no. So, control and fear, expectations, obligations. How many times do you do things because you feel obligated instead of you really want to? I got a new thing in life. If it doesn't bring me joy, I'm not doing it. Yeah, so I'll ask myself, Maryann, is this bringing you joy? No. I have. I mean, sure, there's some things like in my job that don't bring me joy, but you know what? I love my job. So my job brings me joy, and yeah, there's crappy things that go with it, but those crappy things are all for a purpose. I've terminated many people in my day, but they were always beautiful people with the same divine gifts that all of us have, and I've learned from every one of those experiences, and so have they. Because the fabric of life is changed by those relationships. Just because someone doesn't fit in the organization, just because, it doesn't mean they're not good people. I think one of the greatest things anybody told me in my work life was the courier that was about 65 years old that worked with me 20 years ago. And he came in my office and he said, I've had a lot of bosses in my 65 years, but you're the best because you can tell me and ream me anew and you make it feel good. I don't know how you do it. But you do. And I'll tell you how I could do it to make it feel. I love the people I work with. I love people. Okay, yeah, some people have, don't fit in. Doesn't mean I don't love them as people. And so when you really talk to someone and assist them, you're really doing them a favor. I've had people think, 2010 was a very difficult year. We laid off 10% of our workforce because of the cancer cuts in our nation. And I got thank you cards from 3 of the people that we laid off. I thought, holy crow. Why? Probably because I was sobbing my little heart out because I didn't want it to happen. But I couldn't control it. And they were just things that occurred beyond our control. Mm.
Okay, so that mentality, philosophy, when it's communicated, and I would think that the response might be, everything is not joyous. I mean, there
Well, who can you control in this world? Right. So the only one you're really talking to about joy is you. I'm not going to try to convince you. That's their stuff. That's their stuff. So you can either decide to hang with them and get sucked in, change your mind and have a barrier and not get sucked in, or you can say, I'm not interested in this anymore. Just not interested. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to. But see, that's courage, right? And growth. But if you love yourself enough, why wouldn't you put forth that effort to protect yourself? So the only ones we can, the only ones we can control are ourselves. So speak to yourself. And if it does not bring you joy, ask yourself, well, what are you doing it for? Knowing that life is not always joyful. But if there's a good reason, this is not bringing me joy, but why am I doing it? Because I love that person and because I am their friend and they need me, and that's what a friend does. Good enough for me. You know? Why am I doing this and it doesn't bring me joy? Because I'm their mother, and if I don't, no one will. Good enough for me. Blame. A lot of blame in life. It's not my fault, it's their fault, you know? Accountability. But all of that is control and fear. So one, fear, many faces. Anger, jealousy, sadness, rejection, misery, anxiety, manipulation, irrationality, depression, loneliness, paralysis, insecurity. And those all, if you think about it, if you say to yourself, when's the last time I felt insecure? Think about it. Get it really going in your head. All right, where do you feel it in your body? You probably feel it like right here, right? And it's not comfortable. It's a discomfort. So you say to yourself, okay, what tree is this coming from? What root? Love or fear? Well, I don't really like the way it feels, so it's probably not love, it's fear. Now, think of someone you love the very most in life. Think of them. See their face. See them laughing. Huh? What happens? Your heart fills, right, with love, with joy. It's unmistakable from fear. So when you feel that, then you know. And if you could just go through life and find more things to be excited about, little things. Oh my God, I pressed the elevator button and it was right there. Oh my gosh, look at all these cars. Oh, angels, find me a parking spot. Oh, there's one. Right. So you don't always need big things to get excited. You could be excited about little things. I get excited all day long. Sometimes people can't stand me. I don't care. I like me. But fear avoids responsibility. It fosters drama. You know, I like a drama-free environment. Do you know how much money is wasted in organizations from drama? You take how much money somebody makes, multiply it by the amount of minutes they're spending in drama. Okay, it really is a big loss to an organization to have a lot of drama. So how do you squelch drama? Well, first you got to talk about it. I had a drama-free by September 3 campaign a few years ago. Everyone said, oh, what's going on September 3rd? I go, nothing, but it rhymes with free, 3. And I said, and you know, you can't do a drama-free campaign and have it start in June. It's just the summer. We're all too busy. We've got to take vacation. July or August won't work. September was the perfect time. So, yeah. And I had people, well, what do you mean by drama? Well, like, what do you really mean? Okay, so if something's wrong with, like, a coworker and it's not work, but I can't talk to him, well, there's a difference. But, you know, I was amazed at how many questions about drama we got. So it took all of those months for people to talk about what is drama. And now I just love it because I'll go by and people say, yeah, drama-free. I'll say, all right. Because it's just a way better way to live, you know. Because drama is very fear-oriented. And fear can be really unkind. And you know, it encourages victims, too, not me. Oh, yeah. It's this one's fault that I can't do that. It's that one's fault that I can't do that. It's this one's thing that I can't do that, you know? No victims. We have a thing at my senior leadership, and we just put the V like this. So if someone's got, like, the whole victim thing going, nobody even, you know, we'll just go. And then they go, oh, all right, okay. But before you can do that, you got to trust one another. To trust one another, you got to believe their intentions. But to trust anyone, you got to be able to trust yourself first. You got to be able to know that, you got it all going on. That, it's okay to say the things that you want to say. And, it's got to be an environment where you can have freedom to speak. But, when my leadership team, we agree to disagree, but when we walk out of that room, nobody's stabbing anybody. It's we're all together. And sometimes, someone might not agree 100%, but, if you can tell when we leave that room, then something's not right. Because you got to have that cohesiveness, just like the family, which is why I call my senior leadership team the kitchen table. It's the KT game. It's the kitchen table meetings. And it's funny, because when a new person gets exposed, and we're talking about, well, we'll go over that in KT. Kitchen table. Well, you don't call your leadership team kitchen table? So anyways, change. No, start from the beginning. Be aware when fear is present. Try to shift your perspective from fear-based to freedom or love. You can only control you. Love and respect yourself. Put quality in your communication, not just in the words, but also in how they're delivered. And also, in this world of texting and whatever, we got to really be cognizant of the fact that we could send some awful messages without even knowing it. So change is the only constant we can really count on, but don't let it lead you down a track of fear. Don't allow fear to create paralysis that will eventually prevent your organization or you or anything from making decisions and taking risk. There's a big difference in believing and knowing. I think a good teacher, a master teacher, doesn't teach anyone to believe anything. They just somehow facilitate or show or demonstrate, and people can know. They'll know it themselves. They develop that themselves, because there's a huge difference. I'm not trying to shove anything down your throat. All I'm trying to do is throw out some things so that the next time you're in one of those grooves, maybe you'll think, well, it is me. It takes two to tango, and I got to shape up. We respond to stimuli as we interpret it. Understand how you think and the cascade of emotion that results and creates your world. Just a touch of science, because I think this is very interesting. So there's events that happen in this world, and then there's our perceptions in that lens. Some of us see the glass half full, some see it half empty, some see the witch, some people see the pretty girl. No matter what, we've got this internal processing going, and we've got all this jibber-jabber all day long. And somehow that affects our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual response. Because, sometimes things really are not what they appear to be. There are just things in life that appear one way, and you could swear that you're interpreting it correctly, but you're really not. So what you're doing is you're going to give power to situations and things that aren't even true. Did you ever walk in a room, two people talking, and then they stop when you walk in? So what do you think first thing? Oh, yeah, they were talking about me. What is it? Is it what I'm wearing? Do I have something in my what is it? And here they could have been talking about, anything. Yep, it could be. It could be. Why do we do that? You get an email, I'd like to see you in my office right away. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Why is it that we do that? How about this one? Oh, I've been working so hard. I'm so tired. I made myself sick. You did? What happened? I got a cold. I gave it to myself. I've been burning my candle at both ends. I'm sick. I made myself sick. And then sometimes I say, well, have you healed yourself lately? Well, wouldn't it stand to reason if you can make yourself sick, you should be able to heal yourself? Right? Because we have innate gifts of healing ourselves. But why don't we ever talk about that? Why do we always think, oh, here's one thing in the winter. Had talked about this at a staff meeting too. How many people this winter? Oh, we're going to get it. Oh, yeah. Wait, big, huge storm, probably March, April. When all the snow tires are off, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. You know why? Because we've had a good winter. We can't possibly deserve a good winter. We got to wait. The shoe's going to drop. It's happening. And it's very funny because one time I had the front desk people say to me, oh, Maryann, you know what? We've been paying attention today. You wouldn't believe all the people that said we're going to get it because the weather's really good. Now, see, did we ever really get it? Oh, well, you know what? We'll get it this winter. And if we don't, we'll get it next winter. We'll get it somehow. So why is that? Why is that human nature? Why can't we just say, hey, you know what I think? I think the weather is going to change, and I think it's going to be so awesome. Everybody's going to move to Syracuse, New York. It's going to start being like the new Virginia or whatever. The world is changing. Like, okay, well, maybe that's not true, but you know what I mean. So things are not always what they appear to be. So just do a little bit of bio inside. So we've got these nerve cells, neurons, very highly specialized. And then these pulses are transmitted to this nerve network in cells outside our nervous system. See, homeostasis, the balance net within our body that happens all day long, primarily the nervous system and the endocrine system. So, impulses are connected by thoughts and memories built on the law of association. So the more the highway gets paved, and so automatically it goes there. Now, for example, anybody drive standard? Well, if you remember when in the beginning you were like looking at the sound, shifting, right? And then what just all happens. And you're shifting, and the other day I left the meeting, 12 minutes from work. I realized that I was close to my house, where I was going. Didn't even pay attention. I'm like, I'm almost to Camillus. It took me about 40 minutes to get back in the thing because because you know what? You have piano recital when you were a kid. Okay, you do it about 50 million times. I bet you can sit down and play some of those. Maybe not the whole song, but part of it, couldn't you? I could do right now. Somewhere my love. I could do it. Why? Because I programmed myself over and over so that I could think about something totally different, and my hands just knew what to do. And it's funny because sometimes I'll do this experiment and I'll think, okay, wipe everything from your mind and just try to play the entertainer. Just don't think of the notes. Don't think of anything. And my hands will do it until all of a sudden I start thinking. Because we really do. Impulses are connected. You know, muscle memory? That's what we're doing, right? So we are building all these things. Well, the same thing happens with stress and with how we react to things. So how about the endocrine? Same thing with hormones. The hypothalamus is a little mini factory, puts everything together, chemicals released by the pituitary, and there is a chemical. I don't know who Jim Jones is. Oh, the Kool-Aid guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, right, Jimmy Jones. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, I mean, you know, if you're programmed like that, it's hard sometimes to unprogram. I am not worthy. I am not worthy. Oh, yeah, you are. Oh, no, I'm not. So, see me, I don't know. I'm definitely worthy. I feel that all you're worthy. We're all worthy. Why not? Okay. So, there is a chemical to match every emotion. And why I think that this is very interesting is that now you have these thoughts that you have control over. But whenever these thoughts are, there's a whole cascade of reactions chemically in our body that are going on that are causing things to happen. Okay, because when these chemicals now bind to these sites, we become products of our emotions. You know what book you might like is Candace Pert. She's a PhD biochemist. Molecules of Emotion. You might like that book. And then receptors expand by usage, belief systems, responses to things, addictions, patterns in our life. The more we do them, the highways are paved, it's harder to break them. I bit my nails for a long time till I grew up in Utica, and then Notre Dame merged with UCA, and I was going to have boys now in my senior year of class, and I decided I should stop biting my fingernails because boys were going to be around. Oh, it was so hard. I bought everything. I bought the stuff you put on that burns, and then I would have, like, my eyes would burn, my mouth would burn because I'd still... Yeah, because, you know, you have to make a decision to stop any kind of, like, you know, I never smoked, but if I did, I know, like, how difficult all of it is. Well, because those receptors expand by usage. So why not develop some great habits of being kind, of looking at our glasses half full and thinking of all the beautiful things about ourselves, so that when we're walking forward, we're enriching the beauty, crowding out that we don't like, instead of the other way around and beating ourselves up. If you've ever felt like you're in a box, because let's face it, are people not generous through our lives to tell us what they think of us? Huh? From like kindergarten on, right? sometimes we define ourselves by what other people have told us. So, if someone tells you long enough, right, you're going to just start to believe it. There are, kids in school. Little kid in 2nd grade may raise their hand, ask a question. Everybody may laugh at them, and they may say, "You're stupid, and you ask stupid questions." Well, we may not have any conscious recollection of that event, but in our subconscious mind is this little kid who had an immature conscious and subconscious mind who developed an idea about themselves. They drew a conclusion. I can't ask questions because I ask stupid questions. And they may go through their whole life with that kind of fear. It is amazing what people do to themselves and what resides inside, and so much of it just doesn't make sense because it's that little kid that has made and drawn conclusions that are not accurate. And I know this from personal exposure to hundreds of hours I've spent with my clients in hypnotherapy, in which they will be so healed by the recollection of something because now they have figured it out. The conscious mind asks why, and the subconscious mind can sometimes answer. I've gotten emails from people, that session unclogged an artery that has fed my entire life. I mean, those are, it's a real privilege for me to be able to do this with people. But I have learned so much about that subconscious mind that draws conclusions. There are people who go back to in utero that have issues of not belonging because their mom might have been petrified of not being able to have enough money to feed the family. And it is amazing to me what has happened. And if you want to read books about that, Maryann Weiss, MD, W-E-I-S-S, he's incredible, talks a lot about that. But you see, I didn't just read about that. I've actually been able to witness. So, well, everyone can be, because actually you go through your subconscious mind and your conscious mind about 80% of the day. Like when I was driving to Camillus, that's because my subconscious mind was... But there are people who are not open. There are people who are afraid, and fear will prevent them. They'll still be in a hypnotic trance, and they'll talk, and they'll, they don't really lie. You don't really lie to yourself in there. But a lot of times they won't see anything because they'll just be afraid. But normally I can almost sense it because they'll sit down and say, well, I think I'm ready. I thought about this long and hard. I was really afraid, but I'm good now. And I know right away, no, you're not.
So it's more than fear. It's not, that you're a personality disorder or an alcoholic or schizophrenic or,
Well, people have those kinds of things, but the things that prevent people from going on the inside, well, it's that they're just not ready. And normally, what holds you back? I mean, fear has many manifestations. But I put this up because it reminds me to say, if you ever feel like you're in a box, know that you put yourself in there and you can take yourself out. So, I want to talk about entrainment. Put a little science in this too. Let's look at the time. Are you still around and alive and awake? 6:15? We won't go to 7 o'clock, I promise. We'll go about another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then if you want to talk and do questions. But I bring this up because it's very interesting. This is another 8.5 by 11, by the way. A physics phenomena of resonance, first observed in the 17th century, so it's quite old. Entrainment is defined as the tendency for two oscillating bodies to lock into phase so that they vibrate in harmony. The principle of entrainment is universal, appearing in chemistry, pharmacology, biology, medicine, psych, sociology, astronomy, architecture, and more. Remember the clocks, the pendulums, and how the clockmaker couldn't believe every one of the pendulums were all in sync? Okay, well, the history of entrainment is linked to that Dutch scientist named Christian, whatever his name, Huygens. In 1665, while he was working on the design of a pendulum clock, he found that when he placed two of them on the wall near each other and swung the pendulums at different rates, eventually they would influence one another and they would oscillate at the same rate. Why do women living all in the same household every month? Because they get in sync with one another. People put on relaxing music and it has the theta, beta, alpha, whatever, right? Because now they're using music to put themselves, because eventually you're going to get into that and you're going to oscillate, you're going to vibrate together, because everything is about vibration in this world, you know, everything. And in fact, there's vibrations associated with thoughts, and things like love is a very high vibration, and fear is very low. And the book, if you want to read for that, is, I think it's Force versus Power, or Power versus Force. It's a very incredible, interesting book. Anyways, so there's musical entrainment. We talked about that. So I ask you, with what and whom do you resonate? Because that's actually one of the scientific basis also of energy healing, is that the practitioner gets themselves locked in a sync, and then the client and the practitioner resonate together in this harmonious, so that each of them, instead of being different, they resonate together. And you can have groups that resonate. Like, I love when someone says to me, which a patient just did last week, said to me, there's just something very special here. There's like this, I don't know, there's this feeling. I can just feel it. It's like, I don't know how it happens. I don't know how you guys do it. Well, because you see, if everyone's kind of singing out of that same hymnal, and they're all looking in the same direction, and they all know what the expectations are, and they are of love and kindness and accountability, then that whole groove will develop like a vibe. You know, did you ever walk in a store and you're like, you know? Or you go with two people are talking, they're arguing, and you walk in, you ever say, oh, you could have cut that tension with a knife. Well, what are you talking about? That's exactly. Did you ever like be turning like this, and you turn around because you know someone's there, but you didn't hear them, you felt it? There's just, things are not always what they appear to be.
Well, isn't that the field, our electrical field?
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are beings of electrical energy, because we have electrical systems within us. My heart's beating, you know, and everything else is going along, and everything's working, and I'm very thankful for all of that. But, you know, I am an electrical being, and so are all of you. And there's a law in physics called Ampere's law that says any time an electrical current goes through a tissue, it makes a magnetic field. And so really that's the scientific basis of energy healing, and all of that is resonance. And yes, we are electromagnetic beings. So just to tell you about a little of that, I do put these chakras up here. What are chakras? First, I want to tell you that about 20 years ago, a physician, lovely woman, gave me a book called The Anatomy of a Spirit, Carolyn Miss. I was reading it, and I thought, oh yeah, right. And I shut the book, and I thought, I'll just let her know that I really liked it. And I put it away, because I was not ready for that at that time. Of course, now I've spent the last 10 years doing energy work and teaching. I've taught 50, 60, 70 people Reiki 1, Reiki 2. I've got some Reiki Master students out there. We have this wonderfully successful program. We have a whole bunch of practitioners. There's probably 10% of the people even at HEMOC who are Reiki practitioners who change the vibration of things. Okay, so what is it? Those are energy centers. They're actually measurable. But what's most precious? You know how, like, I love the water crystals, because I love that our bodies are 70% of water, and so is the world, right? The earth. Well, I love that the chakras follow the colors of the rainbow. And the reason why they have colors is because they vibrate at a certain frequency. And the frequency is the harmonic scale. So we have rainbows, we have chakras, we have C, D, F, G, A, B, C on the piano. They're all in perfect harmony. Now, could that possibly be a coincidence? See, I don't really think so. So I just love this stuff. So anyways, there are chakras, they're energy centers in our body, and so we're beings of feeling, and you can't separate physical and emotional and mental and spiritual, and that's why all of us should really go forward for ourselves and for others to look at the whole and to work on the whole. And you know, meridians are for acupuncturists. Where pain management, there's so much more that we're learning and that we know about things like acupuncture. And, you know, I throw this in here because the world is very focused on intellect, but there's an emotional intelligence that's essential. And it's self-awareness and self-discovery. It's emotional self-control. It's human understanding. It's social intelligence, interpersonal skills, effective communication. It's wisdom. It's intuition. And do you know that now I love it, but I kind of laugh because all of these studies are coming out saying leaders, to be successful, really need this emotional maturity. They really need to have that above aptitude and skill set. Well, I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, but this to me is the self-mastery journey. It's figuring out who we are. And my gosh, if we all go on that journey, just think of what this world can be like. So, do remember that what we focus on will come into clear view, that we attract to us that which resonates with our most dominant thoughts. So which are they? Are they joy? Do you exude joy? Do you exude fear? Are you worried about credit, control? What is it? What's going on? And so I bring that slide again to remind you that journey is just the matrix of all of these elements of who we are and make up who we are. And we can't focus on one because it all affects everything. Because we're these beautiful, divine beings that have so many gifts and just so much to give the world and to give their people. So those on the self-mastery journey have made the experience loving themselves more every day, appreciating every part of life, bringing light to people's lives in everyday situations, positive attitude in the face of adversity, a view of love and beauty that permeates everything, the habit of kindness and compassion, love that's expanded, a desire to help or serve others, a desire to spend some time alone in thought, a lack of desire to contemplate who was right and who was wrong and who should forgive and who should not. You know, when we don't forgive, see, if we love ourselves enough, we will forgive because it's releasing that energy that doesn't really do anything good for us. When we don't forgive, we sometimes expect the past to change, and it won't. So why dwell on it, but go forward. A reduction in the activity of judging, an increase in the activity of forgiving. And intentions are trusted more than words spoken and actions witnessed. A feeling of better health is a result of the commitment to wellness, a reduction in fear, an increase in laughter, and a greater sense of peace. So, I wish for you that you look at all of you as your glass half full, because you have the choice, no one but you, and that's what I hope that you do. And I have this little website, doitfromtheinsideout.com, and I have little bookmarks if anybody wants to take one that has the site on it. And you know, my book is very leadership oriented, but you know, it's also kind of self-helpish. You can just take one and pass it on if you're interested. Pardon me? No, it's at Barnes & Noble in DeWitt, but it's also, if you go to my website, you can get it on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. It's the Kindle in Nook. Yep. Who got the clue to get me on board? What do you mean?
The mentality, the desire to,
well, if you've got an I've been positive since I was little, but I had a really beautiful mother, and I'd say she was my first self-mastery. You mean where I work? Well, you know, first you have to be successful in business to get people's attention, and I say my position's kind of a front to be able to talk about all these other kinds of things, but I had to be good in my field and well-respected. And honestly, they didn't hire me to bring on a world of self-mastery, to have a culture be built of all this. I was successful in my leadership and in my healthcare knowledge and my business acumen, and it was a wonderful opportunity, and we all grew together, really, on this journey. Did
you find that your personal skills served you well?
They were everything. They were really everything. And my grandmother used to say really nice things to me, and I never believed her. And then finally, I don't know, maybe that's what's in my subconscious mind. All that stuff she tried to convince me. What leads them? For my clients, somebody will... the question was, what leads people to do hypnotherapy? You know, I have a variety of people that find me, usually through word of mouth of other people, but normally my clients will come to me with different things. Like, here's some examples. I had one client who's very, very successful, doesn't live in Syracuse, very lucrative career, in his 40s, says to me, I'm a hypochondriac, I'm worried about dying all the time, and I got this cough that I can't get rid of that I think is nerves. And so he took a wonderful trip into his subconscious mind, and, many of my clients are, their journey is just all unique, but it's spectacular, and he figured out why he was so afraid of dying. And he figured out, yeah, it's like, people will say, there's just that one thing, maybe I can figure it out. And that's, it's really that, you're just looking within yourself, and I have people who have had counseling for 20, 30 years, their whole life, to try to overcome things that in 2 hypnotherapy sessions have opened because you can only heal on a conscious level that which you can remember. No. Mm-mm. No. And there's a lot of different, like hypnotherapy styles. Like, I'm trained in heart-centered hypnotherapy, and that's because our social worker, when she became certified in that, I very much was supportive, but also she does beautiful work. And she said to me, if you're going to go do hypnotherapy, only have it at the wellness center. So I had to go to New York City, and then, you have to do all this other stuff. But it's been really lovely. Drama people, like in my life, that are related to me that I can't... It is, but you know what? You just have to kind of... see, I'm very honest, and I just say how I feel. Like, I'll say, look, you're complicated, you got your own stuff, and, I'll tell you my opinion, but don't keep telling me the same thing over and over again. You're singing the same song to me, change it. See, it's a good thing I don't live where I grew up, because I'd probably be disowned from the family. But no, I love my life. I love my family, and you know what? I think people just know, well, that's Maryann. She's going to tell it like it is, and if you don't want to hear it, don't ask her. Well, I do it through love, because I really do. But I have to tell you, I love myself a lot, and I need to be balanced, and I just can't have all this superfluous whatever. Yeah, probably all of adolescence, like everybody else. Sure, I've been critical of myself my whole life. I'm still, when I want to do something, I have to, I drive myself crazy. We have a little bowling league. I have to take bowling lessons because I can't just do anything half whatever, I mean, that's... No, thank God I've never had to bottom out. I feel, though, that when my mother died, it was the worst thing that could ever have happened to me. That was probably the darkest. And I remember that, she promised to always be near me, which I've always felt her. And I think that I grew with her, and that's even how my spiritual life developed, was that gift, because she has never left. And I really believe that gave me an incredible sense of strength and resilience. And I've often said to myself, because people will say, oh my God, how do you handle all this stress? And I think, no, I've lived through the worst thing that could happen, and as long as my girls are okay, everything else, my husband and my girls and my stepsons, life is perfect if they're okay. And believe me, my boat could get rocked significantly in 5 seconds, but then I have to go back to my beliefs of co-created plans, knowing that I'm not here to solve anyone's issues or protect or enable. I'm here to love and support while other people grow like I had to grow. I mean, that's all you can do is turn it to a positive. Right. Like my daughter's 20 years old. She said to me the other day, she was asking me all these questions. She goes, so Mom, that's what you believe? I said, no, that's what I know. And she just looked at me, she goes, I said, no, I don't believe it. I know it. And there's a big difference. Because when you know it, you know it. You got to figure what's the growth. Yeah. Yeah, and I also think, why am I reacting this way? Why is this bothering me? What am I doing inside? Am I feeling insecure? Am I feeling not good enough? What am I afraid of? Why do I feel this way? And then I have to work on why I feel that way to unfeel that way, and to change it. So, and I do it in little ways even, like, I get angry with myself because I took the wrong turn, whatever, but then I say, well, who knows what would have happened had I gone the right way? How do I know I haven't been divinely protected by something? So, my husband calls me the queen of justification, but it works beautifully. I can turn almost anything into a positive. There's something that I could, I just always try to think, well, all right, what's the silver lining? Find it. There's got to be something good. There's got to be some growth. There's got to be something that, And I also have this belief that we co-create. So we put a lot of these challenges in our path to develop into who we're supposed to be. So sometimes I say, like, Lordy, up above, what the was I thinking of? Because I'm like, really? I would do this? And I've had my stepmother, that's impossible. I would never pick this for myself. And I'd be like, well, I don't know. Somehow you put it in your plan. So figure out why you do it. And when you look at life that way, you think to yourself, now, why would I ever put them in my plan? Must be some reason. Because the irritants in life really teach us so much more than the people sometimes who are kind and loving. They really help us figure out who we are. Yeah. It's like the diamond, right? To really shine it up, you got to sand right? So people are roughing us up to make us shine more brilliantly. Yeah. No, that would be a great idea. I wouldn't even know how to do that, but I believe this is all recorded and is going to be on Wendy's Nature Time site. So hopefully this bulge didn't make me look. See, everyone, it's a bulge from the...
So how complicated is the book?
I don't know exactly. I don't know. It just came right out. It's written for really anybody who would... No. Oh, no. I really try to, there's things like this in there, yeah. It's pretty packed full of stuff, I think. I think it was divinely inspired. And some people like it and some don't, but, whatever. The people, yeah. I always think, well, if it changes one life, then I've done something good. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else? Because I'll tell you what time it is. It's 6:35. All right, well, I can't thank you enough. May you have just a beautiful everything.